So on Sunday, the 23rd of April, just a couple of days before my birthday, I granted myself with the best birthday present ever. I gave myself the chance, the ability to tick off one of the goals I had on my bucket list for quite some time now, something that I really wanted to achieve in my lifetime, and I'm glad to say that before my 25th birthday I was able to tick it off, which gave me an amazing feeling, and it was the best birthday present ever. Ladies and gentlemen, I ran my very first marathon, and I can say it feels achievement of something that for me was something quite big. It is just priceless. In this video, what I want to do is I want to share with you the psychological insights, the mental strategies that really helped me prepare for it and get through it as well, because it can be very daunting to run such a great distance, but there are definitely things you can do beforehand, during, and maybe after in prospect of another marathon or something even more challenging, ultra marathons. That's what I want to do next. And this is just a video in which I want to share the tips, the insights that I acquired from running my very first marathon. So I hope you find these tips helpful. Let's get right into it. Tip number one, ladies and gentlemen, is to have a reference experience that gives you some sort of degree of certainty that you can achieve this feat. What do I mean by that? What I mean is this. I'll give you an example to make it very clear. Me, back in December, I set out for a long run, which I knew there was going to be a long run, but I didn't know exactly how long it was going to be. And eventually I completed the distance of a marathon. Now, I ran 23 kilometers, so about half of it, a little bit more than half of it, and the rest I walked. These were in very bad conditions, in the sense that it was pitch black. I left at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. By the time I was finished, it was 10 o'clock at night, black. It was freezing cold, 1 degree Celsius, and I had no food, no water, no money, no cell phone, and it was real agony and pain to get through all those miles. And I walked, I ran in one direction, and then I had to obviously get back. So it's not like it was a circle and I decided, oh, I'm just going to keep on running until a marathon. I just kept on running in one straight line, and I thought, yeah, I need to get back. But the moral of this story is this. I actually had already completed the total distance. Now, half of it was walking, but still this reference experience gave me a certain level of confidence that I could achieve the full distance of a marathon running under better conditions, under the conditions of one having eaten properly beforehand for such a huge distance, and also to have water and aid stations along the way, all things that I totally did not have and wasn't freezing my ass off when I did this back in December. So that's what I mean. You have to have at least something, just something. I'm not saying you have to do the same thing and have to already have completed the distance, part walking, part running, or anything. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is, you have to have a sense of confidence and certainty beforehand of, I think I can do this, right? Obviously there has to be an element of challenge where a bit of uncertainty is good and healthy, but you get what I'm getting at, right? It doesn't have to be so, like, if I would from today on to tomorrow say I'm going to run a marathon for the rest of the year, like, I'm optimistic and I love thinking crazy like that, but that's just slightly over the top. You understand what I'm saying? So have a reference experience that gives you a certain degree of certainty, of confidence that you can actually pull this off. Tip number 2 now is to use the technique of visualization. Now, I know this is very corny and kind of used to be, and maybe still is, I don't know, very popular in personal development, you know, positive psychology and that. I don't want to blow it up too much and be able to, you know, just visualize, close your eyes and see yourself winning and crossing the finish line and all that. However, I do think there is a certain element of some quality in the idea of visualization, and that you really can have some benefit out of it, and it does really work. But what's important is to use the technique correctly. Often what I hear is people just saying to visualize the achievement, whatever it may be. So in this case, in this scenario, what we're talking about here is crossing the finish line, of completing those 26.2 miles. However, that would be good, but not very, very good. Actually, it would be quite limited in its beneficial effect on your running. What would be much better, in fact, is to visualize yourself struggling, in pain, when you hit the wall.
I hit the wall! I have never been so tired in all my life. Even my teeth are tired.
When you're at mile, what did they say the mile is? Well, for me it was like around 35k. What is that? 16 miles or something into the race. When you are really depleted, when you have no energy, when your you know, motivation just plummets, when you're in a rut, right? You have to visualize yourself in that kind of scenario, and then seeing yourself push through anyways. That's what you have to visualize. Don't just visualize the, hey, yeah, cheering on, super great. No, visualize the pain and visualize yourself coping with that pain, pushing through no matter what. That is what you have to do. That will work. Tip number 3, ladies and gentlemen, is to clearly define your why. The purpose of you doing this. Why do you want to do this? Are you doing it to impress somebody? Why are you doing it for you? Are you doing it because it's something that you had on your bucket list for some time? Something that you truly find amazing, to complete such a distance, to set that challenge for yourself and break through it and just do it? For me, that was obviously the reason, amongst other reasons. But you have to clearly define it and think about it, write it down, because having it, you know, on paper, having it really tangible for you to look at is a good thing. Because when you're running and when you're in pain, when everything hurts and you really need that mental edge, you know, that extra bit of motivation to keep you going despite the suffering, to know your why very clearly, not to have it somewhere at the back of your head, you know, whoa, like somebody at the finish line says, what inspired you to run, that you can clearly tell them, right? And not be like, it's a good idea. Because if you're not an amazing runner, then you might not even make it that far if you do not have a why. I can assure you this, that if you have a why and you clearly state it, if you clearly define it, if you clearly have it in front of you, you know, figuratively speaking, it will definitely give you that edge. Tip number 4, ladies and gentlemen, is to chunk down the distance. So if you're about to run a marathon, or if you've run a marathon before, you know what the distance is, 26.2 miles, or I actually count in kilometers, 42.195 kilometers. I actually didn't run that. What do I mean with that? Well, I mean with that, obviously I did run that distance, but I didn't conceive it as such. I didn't conceptualize it in those terms. I didn't think of it as one huge chunk of this distance. I actually cut it down into 4 bits, 10 Ks, 10 kilometers, plus then an additional, the additional to 2.2k, right? That really does help, and you might be like, well, that's ridiculous because it's exactly the same distance, but it really makes a difference. How you think about it, how you go about it really makes a difference. If you just say 10K, I know what a 10K is because I've run that many times, right? So for me, that's okay, I can run a 10K, right? But I've never really ran that distance completely in itself, the 42 and so on. So to translate the unknown into something known really does help. Might sound stupid, but try it for yourself. If you're going out for a long run, a new distance, if it may be that distance of a marathon or anything shorter or even longer, how about you use the chunking method where you define the unknown into terms of the known, right? What you already know. I actually chunked it down very physically. I actually literally at kilometer number 10, because I was drinking so much, right, trying to keep hydrated, is that I had to go to the toilet, and I used, you know, that 10K mark as an instant to just quickly step aside and, you know, do my business and then get back in the race, right? You understand? And I did that 3 times or 4 times, right? I don't think the last time I did, but definitely 3 times. Those marks, that really chunked it physically into those distances. And also important to note is you have to chunk it down into something that works for you. For me, that was 4 times 10K plus then the rest. However, don't chunk it down too much. If you chunk it down into 1 kilometer, well, guess what? You have 42.2 kilometers again, but then into separate kilometers. It is just too much. You have to take it and chunk it down into bits, but not too little where it becomes just too much as well. I hope that makes sense. It definitely helped me, so that's why I wanted to share that idea with you. Tip number 5, ladies and gentlemen, is to have inspirational stories at the back of your mind. To have read inspirational stories of endurance, of strength, of people going through hell and keep on going despite being in hell, and, you know, just pushing through. What I didn't tell you, for example, in one of the earlier tips, when I say that you have to have a reference experience, I told you about me just going for a long run and just keep on running and running and running. And why was that? Because at the time I had my headphones on and I was listening to an audio book from Charlie Engle, who's an unbelievably great ultra runner, and I was just listening to the story of him running through the entire Sahara Desert and all the misery that he had to deal with, and I was just like, this dude is incredibly amazing. I mean, he just keeps on pushing despite all the pain, despite all the setbacks, despite everything. He just keeps on going. And I thought, I'm pathetic. I'm here, you know, chilling. I mean, it was, yeah, literally chilling. I was chilling my ass off because it was really cold. But I was like, I mean, I was just inspired, you know. I was just inspired, and I just kept on running, right? And having stories like that at the back of your mind when you're in the race, when, you know, you've hit the wall, when you're in pain, when you're suffering, just to have people inspire you. And it doesn't even have to be people, inspirational stories about runners. It could be people in your family, you know, relatives, people who have an illness, a disease, who are fighting cancer, people who, despite all the pain and misery and setbacks, who just keep on going. The kind of people who give you goosebumps because of how inspirational they are, of what an attitude in life they have, what kind of a great mentality they have. It really helps to have inspirational stories like that at the back of your mind that you can just pull out, that can give you those goosebumps despite having, you know, legs that feel like lead when you're in pain, when you're struggling, when you're suffering, but that you can just, you know, get that extra fire that you didn't think you had to, you know, surface suddenly because you've triggered those thoughts in your mind that you had, those inspirational stories. I really think that can make a big difference in your run. So, tip number 6, one of the last tips that I want to give that you have to really have done or have set in place before the run is tip number 6, which is to have mental tranquility by taking some measures, some precautions. What I mean with that is this. For example, what do you do if during the race you have to go to the toilet? Now, if we're talking about just a small toilet, well, that's easy, especially for a man. For a woman, it's maybe a little more complicated. Can't help you there, Lo. But what if you have to go to a big toilet, right? These are things that I was thinking about before the marathon, like, what do you do? I've never run one. I don't know. I didn't really know of that many other people have run one, or that I could ask that easily too, or I didn't think of asking them. But what I just figured for myself is, well, if I have to go, I have to go, right? So I'll better have a bit of toilet paper with me. So I was carrying a little bit of toilet paper in the case that I really had to take a pit stop for that reason. That gave me mental tranquility during the run. In case that would happen, I would be prepared. Another thing, and this may be a little bit more practical, is I just had a few plasters in case my foot or extreme blisters, or I don't know. I was just taking measures in case of worst case scenarios. And even though I didn't use them, and I'm lucky that I didn't have to use them, they were there and they gave me that mental tranquility. Another thing is I had one of these, actually I didn't have this, but I don't know what you would call this, a running belt? Don't know, but just something that I actually purchased on the marathon day itself, which was very handy for me because I could drink and take a snack at any time that I wanted to, which gave me, once again, that mental tranquility. I didn't have to wait for the next aid station. Say, for example, I was well into the race and I suddenly needed some energy, and the next aid stand was 1 or 2k further, I would be in trouble, right? But having this really allowed me to just be more at ease, that I was like, okay, if I really needed something, I had it at immediate disposal, right? So that's a very important tip, is to have mental tranquility when you run, by thinking about things that you might need, things that might happen during the race, do you need to be prepared for, and that will give you that mental tranquility, which will make your run definitely easier. Right, moving on to tip number 7, and this is the first tip that you really should apply during the race itself, and that is the act of giving and receiving energy. This is probably one of the biggest things that helped me during my run. What it is basically is that when you're running, don't just look at your feet, or don't just, stare mindlessly into the distance, but look at the spectators along the side. If you're lucky enough and during the marathon to have people there, at some points there are obviously less people than on other points, but whenever there are people, look them in the eyes, look them in the face. What I noticed is that when I looked at people and smiled, because I looked at people and smiled at them, that one, they smiled back, mirror neurons, right? But also, they started clapping for me. People appreciate when other people do great things, right? When they are inspired themselves, because some people might be inspired, some people might think, wow, I want to do that one day. And they just like the event, right? So they're more likely to clap and to encourage you personally, even if they don't know you, if you look them directly into the face and you smile at them, which I did throughout the whole damn run nearly. Like, I was like, I didn't see that many other people do this, I don't think, although I wasn't really looking at other runners per se in the face, definitely. But yeah, I just noticed that my run was so much more pleasurable because I was smiling the whole damn run nearly. I mean, okay, at points maybe I was grinning a bit or whatever from the pain, but in most part I was smiling. I was enjoying the experience of running a freaking marathon, which was just amazing. Also, kids, the little kids, right? Or the big kids, if there are big kids. What I noticed is that they all were reaching out their hand and wanted to be high-fived. Somebody could be thinking, well, you got to conserve your energy. Don't go out and high-five them all and, you know, you're wasting your energy. You've got to conserve your energy for the running. Well, for me, actually, no. Every child I saw and was able to, when I didn't have something in my hand like a drink or whatever, I high-fived all the kids along the route, or the route, whatever. American English and British English is what I was trying to say, right? So if you high-five all the kids, for me it just gives me energy, you know. It's like you invest a little bit of energy but you get so much back, you know. If you could just light up a kid's day from giving them a high five as you're one of the runners in the event, that kid feels great, and I feel even probably greater than the kid. For me, that really did work. If you're a social person, if you're not an anti-social person or something, I don't know, but for me that was something huge. It really is probably the single biggest thing that helped me throughout this marathon, is to look at people in the face, to smile at them, to show them appreciation, basically, that they came up and were there supporting us runners, and to just high-five the kids. I mean, it doesn't cost much energy. You just put out your hand there and you high-five them, they're happy, you're happy, and everybody's happy, right? So that's tip number 7. Right, it's getting dark, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, but I am committed and I'm going to finish this video. Tip number 8. Tip number 8 is to run next to somebody. I, for the first 10k more or less, ran next to this girl who just happened to be running at my pace, right? And that's a good thing, because even though you don't know the person, even though you don't exchange no words with them, just running next to somebody for an hour or so gives you a sense of rapport, and it also just gives you the sense that you're in it together, right? Everybody has the same goal of reaching the end, of completing the distance. So if you're just running next to somebody, it can really help. Tip number 9 is to have a slight idea into how, for most runners, the course, the evolution of your emotions will play throughout the course of the marathon, right? For most runners, it's like this, that you have obviously ups and downs, moments of motivation followed by demotivation and struggle, and where you really just want to quit and stuff, right? But then a bit later, it goes back up and down, right? For some people, it's more volatile than others, it's more steady, right? That we know. But the further you get into the race, firstly, the more volatile these waves are going to be. So you're going to have more extremes. You're going to feel down, but even more down than you did at the beginning, obviously, or somewhere more around the middle. And when you have a high, they will often also be a bit higher, because you're like, damn, I'm into the race so many miles already. And I don't know, for me that was actually the case as well, because at the end, towards the end, I was like so motivated at moments like, damn, I've come so far, I'm not going to quit now. You know, those moments of affirmation where you just grind it out, where you dig deep, right? So the peaks and the valleys are going to be greater, and they're going to occur far more often as well. So you're going to have a pattern where it's like this, ups and downs throughout the beginning, and then it's going to go up and down, up and down, up and down, very unexpectedly and rapidly following each other. So you just have to know that. Just knowing that will help, where you're not like panicking and like, oh, is this normal or not? I'm 1 minute I'm okay and the next minute I'm not. The thing is, and this will help you if you do read like inspirational stories about other runners, that, you know, I'm like reading a book now by another ultra marathon runner, Scott Jurek, or Jurek, don't know how to pronounce that, but he was running this race, this ultra race, Badwater 135 miles, incredible, one of the, if not the most difficult race on the entire planet. And around mile 70, so he's just about round the half, he's like flat on his back and he cannot continue. And I haven't read the whole book yet, but I do already know the outcome of that race is he won. Just to tell you how deep you can sometimes be, but still can continue. And such stories are very inspirational. So I once again encourage you to you know, grab yourself a book and just read. It will really help you during your own run, even just thinking about somebody else struggling. So there you have it. Tip number 9 is to just know that this is totally normal, that you have ups and downs, and that they become more extreme and more frequent as you progress throughout the race. Tip number 10 is a very important tip. It's one of those tips that hopefully you will not have to use throughout the run, throughout the race, but it's very important and good if you know it, and that is baby steps. This is not something new. I don't think the place where I recently just came across it once again is from the person who invented it or anything. That was Karanazes, one of the world's greatest ultramarathon runners. But the idea, the concept is this, that when you've hit the wall, when you really cannot continue anymore, when you're at your worst, right? When you cannot even move no more nearly, when you're in so much pain and you want to quit, just think baby steps, literally. It's all about putting one foot in front of the other, and that's all your concern should be. Your concern should no longer be, I have so many miles to go. Your only concern should be, let's just literally set the goal perhaps 10 feet or a few meters from where you are. You see something in your close line of sight, you say, oh, there's a pole there, for example. I'm just going to run up to that pole step by step, you know, baby steps, and once I'm there, I celebrate. Literally, you say yes, right? You go, you integrate that feeling of achievement. Once you reach that, you know, you say, just one more baby step. It's just one more baby step. So that's the idea. You continually put one step in front of the other, little baby steps. You set goalposts and you celebrate every time you achieve one of these goalposts. What you will see if you do this, when you've hit the wall, when you're really struggling, is that will create some momentum. And perhaps around the achievement of goal number 5 or 6, which may, you know, in absolute distance, maybe even just a mile or less than a mile, you'll have acquired some momentum, and you know, the dynamic of the emotional dynamic might just be shifting at that moment. That momentum you created by taking some baby step might just have shifted into an upwards spiral once again. So that's number 10. And also, just one thing that I also added to that is just a mantra, a motto that I had actually written on my hand just to remind me of the fact that pain is temporary and that I can do it, because I believe I could do it and I wanted to do it, and I was gonna, you know, put all of myself into it, but I was going to achieve this. And I wrote this on my hand for when the going got tough, and luckily I didn't have to look at it, but it was there in case I really was struggling and had to take baby steps. Luckily for me that wasn't the case. And then I think I have one more tip for you guys, one bonus tip, tip number 11, which is just to have something at the end of your run when you've completed it, something you can look forward to during your run as well, to kind of like pull you towards the end. So it could be going for a lovely lunch with your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, or with your mom or with your dad. That is just something for you to look forward to while you're running, and an extra reason it could be for you to cross that finish line. But for me it was the gym, because I'm obsessed. No, I've got a streak, I had a streak, I still have a streak. Back then it was of 112 or 13 days, and I didn't want to break it, so I was like, yeah, I've completed the marathon and now I'm going to go to the gym. So for me it was that was cool, I did that. Okay, so that was the video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have found this video helpful. It's probably a long video. I will see how long it is after I've edited it, edited it. Damn, let's say that 10 times fast after each other. Edited it, edited it, edited it, edited it. Okay, let's forget that. I hope you found the video helpful. If you liked the video and you found it helpful, please like the video, and also please subscribe to this YouTube channel, to our YouTube channel, where I will just basically share everything and anything that have helped me along my journey in life on the pursuit of my goals. It could be anything. It's mostly just things that improve the quality of your life, basically. Personal development, dating, fitness, running, whatever's going on in my life. I just try to share content that can help people, and that's the whole idea here. I love doing this. Oh yeah, and one last thing that I forgot to say was this, that if you have some additional tips, things that you helped you on your run, on your marathon or ultra marathon, right, that I haven't mentioned here in this video, then please feel free to leave them in the comments. The more people we can help on their pursuit of accomplishing the feat of running a marathon, the better, right? The more ideas, the greater community we can create here, the better. I couldn't be happier. So with that said, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye. I like making videos. I think it's fun. I wish I could do this as a job. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It'll take a lot more subscribers before I actually can make a job out of this. But who knows, I can keep on dreaming. Yeah, and in the meantime I better keep on studying. Because yeah, but anyway, it was the Marathon of Antwerp. For those who don't know where that is in Belgium. Yes, that is a country, even though it's like you cannot see it on the map, it's too small. So as you can see, a different scenery, a different backdrop, and that is because I was being attacked by bloody mosquitoes. And also this freaking camera, right, seems to find the trees in the forest more expressive than this face here. Like camera, like I put in the setting face tracking. This is a face, this is nature, there's a difference, okay? Right.